Welcome to the McAnulty Method, where financial expert Frank McAnulty and Colin Sorrells share their knowledge and expertise in the world of finance and business with us and answer your questions. Um, Frank, you brought up another terrific point that I'd love to hear you expound upon. So, why don't you tell us what it is you were sharing with us a little bit earlier so our viewer can take part?
Well, I know, in our last segment, we were talking about, whether or not you should show up in the office or not for networking purposes and things like that. I wanted to talk possibly about some ideas of how to network. You're out there, you got your first new job, you're, new in the company, you don't want to step on any toes, but you want to get to know some of the higher ups. You want to get to know some of your coworkers a little better. And the first idea I'm going to give you is can even work in 100% virtual world. It's hard to do any of them. Although I suppose you could put a spin on it. And it was a friend of ours, Bill and mine, way back when I first met him at work. He had this idea that we were going to form the Young Executives Group, just a made up name. And once a month, we would invite a senior executive to lunch. We would buy them lunch. Now, we didn't, the ground rules are fairly simple. We just wanted to talk to them about their careers and and their thoughts on how people should work and advance and things like that. Not talk about the company, not talk about, hey, how do we, but just in general. So, and it was a great idea because most people will say, sure, I'll go to lunch, if, fit it in. What's their schedule? We'll go to lunch. And we got to meet these people. They got to know us better in a sort of non-work environment. Just, hey, we're going to lunch. We're asking your advice on our careers. And it was one of those things that I think really helped us to meet a lot more people. And I guess from a virtual standpoint, if you're working for a virtual company, I suppose you could do the same thing. You could invite them if you really wanted to go full out. You could invite them to lunch. You could send them lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and they could eat it on Zoom while you're having your lunch on Zoom, and just talk to them. You know, Colin's laughing at me here, but it's it's
This sounds
it's
like
all
Zoom
about
happy
getting to
hour all
know.
over again.
No, no, no. I'm not telling you to send them drinks. We're just talking lunch here. That's why it wasn't after work. It was during the middle of the day. It was just lunch. And but you know, you got to get known by people. You've got to get, because how else do you get an opportunity? If a new opportunity comes up in the company, who are they gonna think of to maybe bring it up to and offer it to? But had lunch with those four guys the other day. They seem like they want to do things and they're open to new ideas. Maybe we'll ask one of them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's it going to hurt? What's your cost? If there's four of you and you're sending one person a lunch, okay, you're out, $15 a piece once a month, but you're building your network, you're making contacts. And maybe you could do the same thing within your department as well. Hey, we need to go to lunch once a week just to talk to each other, get to know each other, build a network. It's I think it's even more important now than it ever was before, because networks are so hard to come by in the virtual world.
I completely agree. It's like LinkedIn used to be worth something, and now it's sort of, or it's not even Facebook anymore. What do they call it? Meta. It's sort of that situation where now I get LinkedIn requests from people I never know because I'm a connection of a connection of a connection that showed up on their screen. But that's not really a network in the way you're talking about. A real network where tangible opportunities are going to come along and come your way because of that network. I think what would be really interesting is if you have a sort of direct story where an opportunity came your way because of sort of this networking strategy.
Well, most of the things I've done in my life have come as a result of these people that I've met. I mean, they they called me up or I called them up and say, hey, you got anything? Because I had their phone number. I could call them. It's really hard to, turn somebody down when you're actually talking to them on the phone.
Well, and what did we talked this, I think, about this a couple of weeks ago, sort of getting the job, right? Networking. And it's easier when I go to Bill and I say, hey, you need somebody, Frank will do it, and then they don't have to go find people. They got somebody, and it's a lot easier to just deal with the one person than to sift through. Oh, okay, we got to go find somebody, and then we got to do this, and
Right. Well, let's face it. Someone on this call doesn't have the job yet, but hopefully they will. When they were standing in my office the other day, and I get a call from the owner of a fairly large company. They said, "Hey, we need a person to do this." And I'm like, I think I have that person standing here in my office. Let me get back to you.
that's
There you
So
go.
Bill.
there, if
I hope
that's
you
not
get
a
the job, Bill.
yeah, if that's not an example of networking, I don't know what is. Because let's face it, it's not that I wouldn't have thought of this person anyways, but they were standing there. It's like, wait a minute, what they described in this person, they're perfect for each other.
In some ways, it seems like this would work really well for students because while you're still in school or graduate school, you could get, like you said, 3 or 4 or 5 people together and say, yeah, we're now the Young Executives Club. And it seems like people are always willing to talk to students. And a lot of people just love being set up as like, we would love to hear from you because, you're just the greatest, sir. People love that kind of stuff. So you could do a Zoom call. Doesn't even have to be a lunch. You could just, we're having our meeting and we'd love to have you feature you as our monthly speaker. I think they could probably get a lot of action that way.
I agree with you. And Colin, I blanked for a minute there, but you're absolutely right, Bill. People will answer questions for students. You're not calling them up asking for a job. You're calling them up and asking them about their career and career advice for you. Completely non-threatening.
Well, and we had, I believe it was in the spring, we had somebody he works with startup companies, helping them go to market, all that. But he came on and he said, guys, the most important asset you have as a student is that student email they give you. Because people love to answer questions from student emails. And it doesn't go in the spam filter because it's not recognized as this shady third-party email
Right.
address. So I think for a student, that's the best thing you can do. Email people, ask them questions, and you may not have emailed them with the intention of getting a job, but you'd be surprised what might come out of it.
Absolutely. And that's what happens. I mean, my first job out of college, I got because I had 2 weeks with nothing to do, and a neighbor asked me to drive somebody around who was over here on a sales trip from England. So I was basically his chauffeur for 2 weeks. And he said, dress up nice, come into the meetings, see how they go. You can learn some stuff. And he goes, and I will ask everybody that we talk to if they need to hire an accountant. And he did. And one of them eventually said, sure, we need to hire somebody.
There you go.
All I had to do was drive somebody around and get paid. And that was because my neighbor, I'd talked to him. He knew what I was doing. And so, I always tell the students, I said, talk to all your neighbors. Talk to your parents' friends. You don't know what they do. You don't know who they know. But if you talk to them and it's that student thing, hey, I'm a student, I'm starting out. What advice can you give me? What ideas do you have? Yeah, you don't have to take every idea they come up with. You don't have to do everything they say. But you thank them and you go, okay, great idea. You don't know, right? You don't know later they'll say, oh, I didn't even think of this job. We got this opening here at the office.
Well, then let's maybe a good end point is tying it back to our last topic, the advantage if you're a student of going to school in person, taking maybe not doing that, maybe doing a hybrid thing. Not all your classes are in person, but some of them, you know, and the advantages that has, because I'm sure, Frank, you'll tell us, how many students over Zoom did you get that you really ever knew and were willing to go out of the way to help them out?
Maybe 5 out of each class that actually participate in the class when they're all on Zoom. But I get to know them real well when they're in class. And when the people at the office I'm sitting in now says, hey, we need to hire a bunch of people, I go, I got people for you. You know, so, and it's the ones that I know through meeting in class.
There you go. I think this is a good place to stop. It's whether it's live and in person, hybrid, or even remotely, you still got a network. It seems like it's just a primary requirement. So I think this will do it for this episode of the McAnulty Method, and I guess we'll see you guys next time.